I must admit that I wasn't very happy with what I saw. So in many ways, the Britain that I had been projecting in the Middle East and in Africa and in the Far East was not the Britain which really existed. And I found that very sad.
Well, I don't know about you, but I think you've had your money's worth. Halloween over, always remember, be like Harry Lauder and keep what I'm from to the end of the road. Keep right. To the end of the road.
All right. Don Bishop, myself, I Bill. Said Don Bishop, I recall when you was telling the story how you did the knowledge to the 28th degree and the 1 in 40. It took me 2 days to have the 4th degree and the 1 in 14 on cap, 8 hours to get the 9th degree on cap, and only 2 hours to get the 28th degree and the 1 in 40 on cap. I tore through that like it was nothing. Um, yeah, well, YouTube don't do the notifications. That's why, I tell people to hit the like button, share the videos, comment on the videos. That those are the things that get the video out. That's when people start getting their alerts. But even when I look at the analytics, it says only 10% of the people that's watching the videos is coming in through alerts. So clearly they're not putting the alerts out there. So, the whole point, each one teach one, that's actual. You know what I'm saying? Self-I Bill said he saw the 7-year headline a couple of days ago. So this link that I just put in the chat box right here is a link to the article that I'm talking about in the New York Post. Where, I guess you call this, they're reporting on a news headline or a news item that appeared in the Bloomberg News. The Bloomberg News organization is making this report that the pandemic could last 7 years. But as I was reading the report, there was something very interesting in there. You know what I'm saying? We'll give a few more people a chance to come in the room. Hit the like button, everybody. Share this on your other pages so we can get to something. A lot of times when I see these stories, I said, especially now, where these stories appear to be all painting a narrative. Like you always got the if it bleeds, it leads stuff. Like the shooting in Pennsylvania. You're always gonna get the if it bleeds, it leads stuff. But you start to look at these other headlines. Atif came in, you know what I'm saying? A lot of these news stories right now appear to be painting a specific picture. Through these news organizations is how they do something called manufacturing consent. Manufacturing consent is, is basically making people think that whoever's the people that's behind the propaganda, right? They have a goal that they want to accomplish, right? They have something that they want to do, and they put out a certain amount of propaganda and misinformation, disinformation through news stories to make people think that that's their idea. Like if they want to go to war with a certain amount of people or a certain group of people, right? They put out a certain amount of news stories about how these people are heinous, for whatever reason, Like if you recall in the last Desert Storm, you know what I'm saying? They had weapons of mass destruction. There were babies being killed at the hospital. All sorts of things to elicit a response in the people that, hey, we've got to do something about this. So there's a lot of news stories where it seems like that's the objective, at least to me. But we definitely have to look at all this news that we're seeing. We definitely got to look at it uh, in the light that it's a lot of propaganda out there. It's almost like right now there's no obligation that even the person that they reporting, the person that they well, let's take for instance Dr. Fauci. He's still seen as an expert on this thing, even though he's been wrong about everything. And I'm not, saying he's wrong based on my opinion. I'm saying, all of the stuff that he said has been on the news. And so you got the situation, where he said, well, look, the mask is not really going to do nothing. To now, the mask is necessary. Did anyone also see the story where the TSA has recommended, I think it's $250 for your first fine, and then $1,000. It goes up at some point to $1,000 for mask violators. See if I get that up on the screen. So Bill said, he's asking me, am I convinced this is a conspiracy yet, AKA all orchestrated for a desired result? Nah, I'm not convinced, So yeah, this right here that just came up on the screen. What is, this right here that just came up on the screen. TSA to fine mass violators up to $1,500. Transportation Security Administration has recommended a fine of $250, increasing up to $1,500 for repeated violation of its recently released federal transportation face mask requirement. So we can see how this thing is really starting to get locked in. We can see how this thing is starting to get locked in to where, even if it's not made. So that news story we just had is from thehill.com. I'm making sure to mention the news stories so that it can't be said that I'm spreading just propaganda. The other AC, my man, my mellow. Everybody hit the like button. As we said, that's the only way to get our people in there. You got to hit like, you got to share the videos, you got to comment on the videos, especially, if you have a particular question, put that in the comments and we can address it in the next video. But no, I'm not 100% convinced that it is a conspiracy. It could be. I'm not 100% ruling it out either. You know, is right now it's still difficult to say because the government is so good at uh, taking advantage of situations. See, because anytime you deal with government, one of the it's just a characteristic of government, at least the forms of government that we've come to know, right? Uh, what they call unintended consequences, the law of unintended consequences, which is basically the path to hell is paved with good intentions. You know, uh, so just through that law, we can see how they continue to take advantage of whatever situations arise. But the thing is, I don't think they're actually in control of everything. But when things spiral out of control, they're good at taking advantage of, whatever crisis arises. They're able to take such good advantage of it that uh, we got a lot of people that have come to think that every single thing is something that's under their control. So we got knowledge a lot, and Queen Mecca came in, getting her comments deleted as usual. Hit that like button so we can get some more people up in here. Don Bishop said, I work for the feds. We was briefed on how to deal with people refusing to wear the mask. Conspiracy is also conspire, falsehood. What? In the upper tapering of something? All right, Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock, we just looked at a quick story about how they're going to be fining. The recommendation, I guess it is so far, is for them to be fining individuals that refuse to wear their mask on an airplane. The TSA is going to be fining you from $250 for the first violation up to $1,500. We didn't read far enough in to see what happens after the $1,500. Maybe you're just banned. But, my point was to look at, how they're locking in this being mandatory. And while the government may not be able to pass laws saying that it's mandatory, that it can still be, because, capitalism is at the very root of the society. That's part of the root of the society. So you got democracy and you got capitalism. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of things that is not, how would you say, it's not enforced, right, through government or the democracy part. It could be enforced through capitalism. You know what I'm saying? By them basically placing an embargo on you. But Don Bishop, what is the recommendation? What is the recommendation that you was given on how to deal with people who refuse to wear the mask? Yeah, the wordsmith. Somebody made a funny point before I ended the last video that you don't want to get in a spelling bee. You don't want to play Scrabble with the wordsmith. No one wants to play Scrabble with the wordsmith. Mr. Spock says, sounds good, except the wearing of 2 masks mandatory. So you're cool with the mandate that we wear the mask, huh? My thing is just, like I was saying earlier, you especially when you're dealing with legal things, right? The law, right? When you're talking about the Constitution, you're talking about just the law of this, the law that this particular government imposes on this land, as opposed to universal law that we're speaking about with supreme mathematics. You gotta be aware, like, for me, if they can make you wear the mask, what else can they make you do? So that's why, I'm a little bit worried about how they, you know, while, I would like, sometimes you go someplace and you just, you look at a person where you're like, oh man, this person doesn't have a mask on, and it's like, oh man, you look like you got. You understand what I'm saying? I can understand that. But I'm just saying that the way that it's being enforced, you know what I'm saying? If they can make you do that, they can make you do other things. Or they can at least try through those same methods. I definitely, like you said, I wouldn't have a problem wearing my mask or, expecting other people to wear their mask. An airplane is basically like a giant tube of toothpaste or something. So, to be in that type of enclosed environment with people, they on a plane, who knows where they connecting from? They could be coming from some hotspot place and have been exposed. Kendall Rowland, you know. So yeah, of course, I'm comfortable with the practice. But I learned one time that Jews, they don't really like, how they have those things where they say certain people is certain people is good academically. I think that's what this particular news story was about. You know what I'm saying? And the Jews is one of the people that they always say, well, they excel academically. So in this particular news story, the Jewish people was like, yeah, we don't really, we'd rather you not say that. And they was like, why wouldn't you, they was like, listen, we don't want the government talking about us. Because just like you can talk good about us, you can talk bad about us. You know what I'm saying? You know, uh, that's how the Nazi, uh, whatever reign of terror they had on the Jews, uh, they was like, that basically comes down to the government talking about you. So we'd rather just do our thing in silence. Self-out bill said J and J potentially coming through with a 65% effective rate vaccine for all willing lab rat participants. Talking about Johnson and Johnson's. So it's only supposed to be 65% effective. That doesn't sound. That doesn't sound too good. And so what happens to the other 35% of people? Self-out bill said give up all your freedoms until the point where you wonder what happened. Vaccinated versus non-vaccinated coming to a theater near you in 2021. Najala says, rough out here for the original man who knows he's alive. Mrs. Fox said, 2 masks is like you definitely trying to suffocate people. Went to D.C. on a bus last weekend. There was no social distance in place. The bus was full, so in certain conditions, I think the mask should be mandatory. Kendall Roller said they like to sneak in the back way. I mean, like you said, in that condition, what you said, you on the bus is no social distance. Like I said, you know, everybody that you on the bus with, y'all not even coming from the same place. You know, they could have been exposed to a strain of this thing that's not even, you know, you might have already built up your immunity to the strain that, you know, is circulating around you. But I just, you know, we should, you know, I don't want to sound like a Republican here, born magnetic. However, you know, I would just rather everybody do it by personal choice. You know, once we get to the mandatory, you know, and some of that's me, some of that's just my personality. I'm resistant to authority. You know, a known that's a known factor in the government that there's certain people that's resistors. No matter what it is, they know that it's certain because, like I said, with the government, you got something. See, when things become standardized, right? They got to be standardized. You know, when it's like the military. The military, they buy boots from size 7 to, like, you know, size 12 or something like that. This, you know, I don't know that those are the particular numbers, but I know that if your feet is outside of that range, then you're not good for the military because they can't order one pair of shoes, you know, for one person who may come through. You got to be inside the standardized range. And if you outside the standardized range, then you're not gonna they just don't have nothing for you. You're not gonna be serviced. Or, you know, when you go to school, if you don't learn inside the standardized ways of learning that they've prescribed with to deal, right? They prescribed to deal with, then you're not gonna do the good in school. See, once you get to one size fits all, you know, there's always going to be that person who just doesn't fit inside the range of what you put as one size fits all. So just like Don Bishop was saying, he works for the feds and they already gave him instructions on what to do with people who refuse to wear the mask. So that's just one example of how they know that it's just certain resistors, it's certain people that's just resistant to authority. You know, it's nothing they can do except lock that person out or, you know, get rid of them some other way. Free to Be Me came in. Don Bishop said they offered the vaccine to us months ago. First responders was a priority. I told them, what you said? I told them that vaccine with a, oh, stick that vaccine where the sun don't shine. See, they're gonna mark you down as a resistor. If you don't cut that out. Everybody do the each one, teach one, hit the like button. But Mr. Spock, though, also the story that we're going to cover, you know, I was just seeing if a few more people come in. But Bloomberg News reports that the pandemic could last up to 7 years. The Bloomberg News organization. I keep pointing that out. I'm sure everybody already knows that. But I say the Bloomberg News organization because, you know, Michael Bloomberg, who is the founder of this news organization, you know, not saying that this story is from him, but just saying he was the mayor in New York. So I just want to specify that this is not something personally that Michael Bloomberg said. This is something being reported by the international news organization, Bloomberg, and also saying that so that it's not, you know, don't put no strikes on my channel because I don't make this stuff up. I'm just reporting it. Right, Kendall Rowland said, you know, when you go into the school system and you don't learn at the same rate, you know what I'm saying? You don't learn as fast. You're not, you know, as good at certain topics. You could be labeled special education, right? Because you don't fit inside the standardized. That's why they call them standardized testing. Now, how many people you know that they intelligent people, but they was in special ed? And I know people that's well read, you know, all types of books, you know, intellectual speakers, free thinkers, you know what I'm saying? But they was in special ed. See, free thinking is something that get you put in special ed. You know, that's free thinking is not inside the standardized range of what you're supposed to be doing. Whoa, Self Abdullah said, did you see the older sister who kicked the bucket after her vaccine shot? No bueno. I didn't see the sister, but I do know that there's been a couple of people who passed away. One explanation passed away after receiving the shot. You know, when you say she kicked the bucket, did she come down with COVID? Because there's people who came down with COVID and kicked the bucket. But from what I understand, you know, first of all, you know, the shots that they got out now, you got to take 2 doses. So there's some people that just got the first dose and then they still came down with it and passed away. And then, you know, apparently there's also, even after you get the second dose, there's a certain amount of weeks before the test actually becomes effective. This is why I said I don't even wear the N95 mask because it's too thick and I can't really breathe. When I go to the gym, I don't even do treadmill at all because the breathing heavy won't work with the mask on. Yeah, but see, that's the thing. if they can mandate that you got to wear a mask, they can also mandate whether or not your mask is sufficient, and tell you, well, look, you got to wear the N95 mask. If you don't have an N95 mask, we have N95 masks right here for $10. So, God Save the Divine, what was the advice? What was the suggestion that they gave you on how to deal with people who refuse to wear the mask? Now it said, feels like we getting ready to do a bid. I mean, if this thing lasts for 7 years, I would say that's we entering territory where we at least at the halfway house. If we're not doing a full blown bid, in New York City, it's like that. We're having to be, where the city just goes into lockdown every night at, really, maybe 10 o'clock. Just because the transportation alone is so difficult, the city that never sleeps, for it to be asleep, at night, for a New Yorker to just be limited to the daytime is, it's just like we at the halfway house. We got a little curfew there. So if I built it stupid. So they tried me with the ESL class. That was another thing. Um, you know, they were saying that I know at one time they wanted to eliminate ESL because they were saying that basically they had turned ESL into a special education class when it wasn't supposed to be. And that the ESL, it really stands for English as a second language. But what was happening is you was having kids that was going into ESL and never coming out. Kids that I know they spoke English. I played with them at the park. You know what I'm saying? But they eliminated ESL at least at one time. I don't know if they reinstated it, but Self-Out Bill says she had, the lady who passed away after receiving the vaccine had underlying conditions, obesity, etc. Then the vaccine took her out of here. I mean, yeah, that's the sad thing, you know what I mean, is that, like when you sit down and really analyze it, and you look at the fact that, a lot of the people that's greatly affected by it, they already have the underlying conditions, or sometimes they refer to it as comorbidities, having other things that can kill you. But like I said, that's one thing that it tested for you. You know what I'm saying? If you a healthy, strong, and good breeder in this day and time. Mr. Spock said that's a credible newspaper that a lot of smart and rich people read. I consider that to be valuable info. Yeah, Bloomberg News. They're not known as an opinion-based newspaper. Don Bishop said those who don't wear the mask, they don't. Or those that don't wear a mask, they don't fly. Hmm. Bill says, so it seems like China's initial response was a smarter choice amongst most nations. Total lockdown, COVID cases plummeted. You think Jim Crow Joe pushing for that? I mean, he could possibly. The other thing I would say is, you got to kind of take things that's reported by Chinese news organizations with a grain of salt because they state-run news organizations. China has a real, they got, at least somewhat a level of control over the information that comes in and the information that goes out. And we know the, we know the capabilities and the propensities of people in the government to lie. You know what I'm saying? And they have a system. The system of how they deal with information is conducive to people in the government lying because you can control the information that comes in and goes out. So I'm leery about believing what China says. Of course, I'm leery about believing what America says too, but that's just me. But let's get into, let me share the screen right here on this Bloomberg story, because they said something that was very, it just makes me say, let's see how y'all look at it. So this should be coming up on your screen in a minute. It says here, pandemic could continue for 7 years under current vaccination rates by Gabrielle Fonrouge. This is in the New York Post right here. It says it'll be a long 7 years before the COVID-19 pandemic is over worldwide if vaccination distribution continues at its current rate, which is a calculation from Bloomberg News. The media outlet, which said it built the biggest database of COVID-19's inoculations given across the globe, crunched the numbers and found it could take most of a decade to reach herd immunity if distribution doesn't ramp up for 2-dose vaccines. Dr. Anthony Fauci has said 75 to 85% of the population will need the vaccine in order to achieve herd immunity. And while the U.S. is on track to reach that goal by New Year 2022, it could take countries like Canada 10 years at their current pace. Okay, so let me tell you the real interesting part here for me. The media outlet, which said it built the biggest database of COVID-19 inoculations given across the globe, crunched the numbers and found it could take most of a decade to reach herd immunity if distribution doesn't ramp up for 2-dose vaccines. The story is in the New York Post. The whole thing, they start, they go into other things in terms of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine coming up. And other factors might weigh in. But when it says that the media outlet has built the biggest database of COVID-19 inoculations given across the globe, crunched the numbers and found it could take most of a decade to reach herd immunity if distribution doesn't ramp up for 2-dose vaccines. Now, tell me if I'm reading too much into this. That what you're saying here is you've collected all the data on the group that has taken the vaccine and on the group that hasn't taken the vaccine. And now, just like with every scientific experiment, you have presented a hypothesis. So you remember, you come with the hypothesis, right, of, what you think, how you think this theory is going to work. Before you go through the other levels of experimentation and observation, conclusion, et cetera, if anybody remembers doing science fairs, the first thing you do is you come up with a hypothesis. Or am I reading too much into it? Here goes another story right here. This is from yesterday, February 4th, from Ebony Bowden, who's also a writer here at the New York Post. Joe Biden not ready to reopen schools despite approval from CDC chief. So we see this, the lockdown continues. Now, we got Encyclopedia Brown. But is it me? Or does it appear, how did they get this database? Like, is that not a clear sign that we in the midst of an experiment? See, because like I said, all you got to do is exist right now to be in the experiment. Because that's how you got to experiment. You got to, at least with medicine, you got to have some people take the medicine, see how they react, see how the outcomes is for the people that take the medicine. And you got to have some people that don't take the medicine and see how they react and see how their outcomes are. And then you do exactly what they say. You crunch the numbers. But you got to take down the information of all the volunteers that you have. So they've built this database of people who have taken the vaccine all across the globe. See, there's a couple of things about that. L7, what's the deal? First of all, how'd you get this information? Like, is it me? Or is that a part of your medical history that's not supposed to be known like that? Or am I off with that? And see, here's another thing. The government has certain rules about how they're supposed to deal with information. But see, if a private organization like Bloomberg News has that information, then that information can be subpoenaed at any time. See, that's why the government, they force, like, say, for instance, the phone companies, pardon me, the phone companies, they force them to collect certain information on you and certain information about your communications, right? And they tell them that, okay, you got to keep this communication for a certain period of time. So now the government is not spying on you. Like I said, the basis of America is democracy and capitalism. You understand what I'm saying? The government and the economy. So things that they can't get to you through the government because of what the rules say, they could get to you through the economy. See, this is very peculiar to me. Very peculiar. Nala said, if you take the vaccine and go back to the essence, your family will receive compensation, or do you have to sign a waiver upon taking it? No, that's a part of the like the authorization. Like that's a part of the emergency aspect of the authorization, how they relaxed certain laws and policies, right? That even like if they come up with a new medicine, they supposed to test it on animals or whatever for a certain period of time and at least have some idea of how it works through testing it on animals before they even begin testing it on people. For them to begin the human trials at a certain time, it's supposed to be a certain amount of, they're supposed to already have an idea of how this thing is going to work. So see, when all those rules got relaxed, right? One of the rules that got relaxed with it is that you cannot sue them. So there's that. Self-out bill said other rules and regulations not mentioned fully in the media outlets. Pretty much. So Kendall Rowland said, come on, y'all, we know what this is. They just wanted to fuck up the economy, put us in fear, and try to show us who is in charge, cause and effect. Create high stress. Uh, I mean, that could be the case. Like I said, I haven't, I can't rule out conspiracies. You know, um, I don't know necessarily. I mean, the economy wasn't that great before, you know, uh, but I mean, so what do you think is gonna happen? They ruin the economy, and then how's that supposed to play out? Queen Mecca said family will receive compensation this similar to Henrietta Lacks, who or her, what you said, oh, healer cells. Yeah, that's the name of the cells is called healer cells, HELA. That's the abbreviation. The HE is for Henrietta and the LA is for Lack. So you say here she suffered though through hell. Um, did her family receive compensation? I haven't kept up with it maybe as much as I should, but the last I checked, Henrietta Lax's family got no compensation. By the time they found out, like the statute of limitations or something had passed. But as of the last time I checked on the story, they did not receive compensation. So Kendall Rowland says that they want to destroy the economy to trigger the emotions of anger, desperation, and hopelessness. The effect for every action is an opposite but equal reaction. I mean, you know, that could be. I'm not, that's not, uh, that's not a ridiculous assertion right there. I'm just saying that, it's anger, desperation, and hopelessness already. That's what we saw out there in the streets, all last summer. From when was it that because things had already been ramping up. You already had the Ahmaud Arbery situation. You had some other situations that occurred a little bit before George Floyd. But I think George Floyd was that was in May of 2020. So, those actions that you seen out there was from, angry, desperate, hopeless people. It's, sometimes, at least when I look at it, uh, sometimes people say that it's a conspiracy to do something. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, these emotions have been triggered for hundreds of years. But, after people become angry, desperate, and hopeless, then what's the next step? Now Bishop said, I'm down with conspiracies. I'm down with conspiracies all day, every day. I mean, conspiracies is real. Like I said, I grew up, there was lots of conspiracies from, who killed Kennedy, uh, Watergate, Iran Contra, there's been a lot of, economic, what I'm saying, the crash of 87 is from, certain banks conspiring together to do certain things, what I'm saying, to, make money. But, when you look at those conspiracies, you look at the elements of the people who was involved, you look at the things that they accomplished. So, it's not that I don't think there's conspiracies, or that everybody that suggested conspiracy necessarily has a tinfoil hat on. I'm just also of the mindset that, the Kelly man is not in control of everything. Kendall Rowland said, the point I'm trying to make is none of this stuff is random or by chance. They plan generations ahead. They know us better than we know ourselves. Nah, I don't think they know us better than we know ourselves. They have studied, psychology and all these different things. So I do agree with that aspect. I do agree with that aspect that like when you watch a TV show, like that TV show is designed to pull in a certain demographic of people. So now the advertisers they put certain commercials on that TV show, right? Because they know that this is the best way to affect these people. This is the best way to make them a consumer of whatever their product is. So that part is real. But I'm just saying that, they plan things generations ahead, and, trust me, a lot of that stuff don't work. See, that's something about geniuses, and, that's something about geniuses and, a lot of great people in general. Like, for instance, see, we don't have VC Realm in the room. I wish we had VC Realm in here right now. Everybody do the each one, teach one, hit the like button. But, how many seasons was Michael Jordan in the NBA? Anybody can answer that question. Take away the 2 years. Take away the 2 years that he, all the retirement time. Take that out. How many years was Michael Jordan in the NBA? Mr. Spock said, I'm reading a book now that says besides the extremely intelligent, everyone will be sterilized and murdered through pandemics to eliminate excessive population. This is in the intro of the book that was published in 2010. Well, this is something that's this population control. All right, Queen Mecca, I guess I see you tomorrow. Whenever you tune back in. But this population control, I know it through is David Rockefeller. Now look, let me go into my conspiracy now. You know what I'm saying? Of stuff that, I don't have a smoking gun here. But see, a lot of things that you see Bill Gates doing now, right? And he's talking a lot about population control. He's picked up the mantle from David Rockefeller. David Rockefeller has been talking that stuff since the 70s, at least. And he made that, like his major mission. In the same way, his family made their money off of oil and banking. And then all of a sudden he decides he wants to go into this altruistic thing where he's going to help the world out and cure world starvation through population control. You know what I mean? And that's because, like I always say, the biggest fear of any small group of people is that all the other people is going to come together against them. So you don't need to access people that you really don't have no plan for, because this is something that continues to happen. This is history. That once you don't have no livelihood for these people, they become violent in society. These are the people who become the rioters, the rebels. The rioters, the rebels, and the revolutionaries is the people that you don't have nothing for them. Like, you don't have no jobs for them. You don't have no place in the system that you designing. So see, like right now, jail, that's one place that you put these people. Get these people away from society. We don't have jobs for them. If they're not going in the army, they got to go to jail. This is another thing that, they claim they don't do in America. But this even happened in Cuba. This happened in a lot of places where it's against the law to not have a job. So there's a little conspiracy for you. Let me see. Let me see if y'all can top that. What you got? What kind of conspiracies you got? Everybody do the each one teach one and hit the like button. But for the new people that's coming in, we was talking about the title of this Bloomberg News reports: the pandemic could last for 7 years. So there was a story in the Bloomberg News today saying that at the current rates of vaccination, right, in comparison to the rates that they said that they need to achieve herd immunity, and with the current rates that the vaccination is being administered, that it could take up to 7 years to reach the herd immunity. But what was very interesting to me, and one of the reasons why conspiracy came up, is because they said that Bloomberg News, the news organization that reported this, said that they have built the largest database of people who have taken their inoculations. And when they crunched the numbers, this is how they came up with the calculation that it could be up to 7 years. Now, the two things that strike me as funny is, how did you get this database? Any of the new people that came in, if you have information on this, is this not your medical history that's not supposed to be being reported? Like how did they get this information? Why are you telling me this before Dr. Fauci, who's supposed to be the expert, even though he's been wrong about every single thing? Not according to me. I'm talking about if you go back and you look at the news stories on everything from, you don't have to wear the mask, to now the TSA is going to fine you if you don't wear the mask. It's not going to affect these people these people are at highest risk. We don't need to lock down the cities to listen. We just need to lock down the cities. The experts have been wrong every step of the way. But I would expect some scientists to be the first ones to come up with, when you say you crunched your numbers, this means that you've collected the information on the volunteers to your experiment, and this is your hypothesis. This story appeared today, it appeared on February 5th in the New York Post. This is where I read it from. Of course, they said the story originated in the Bloomberg News. Just saying, for anybody who wants to check on it, this is the sources where I got the information from. I'm not, I don't make this stuff up. I just report it. Let me get back to the comments here. Kendall Rowland said they know that we are very emotional people, and they know how to manipulate our emotions to work against us. They are at war with the original man for their genetic survival. I mean, see, everybody's getting it though. Once you get to the 10%, the 1%, whatever, they don't care what color you are, man. Like, you might be shocked. Like Kendall Rowland, when you go to Europe, you would be shocked at the level of poverty, in Europe. I'm talking about the way they treat their own people. You gotta remember, 95, 97, 98% of the people in Europe was peasants. You only had a very few classes of people that was above that. You know what I'm saying? You had uh the royal people, and they family, the kings, the queens, the lords, the dukes, the counts, etc. You had the religious people, the pope, the priests, you know what I'm saying? And you had, you did have some merchants, but they all did business with the king. That was when you had, a system called mercantilism that kind of was the bridge to capitalism. So, when you see all those, white people out there in the street protesting, they're not protesting on our behalf necessarily. They protesting on their behalf because this is how it's affecting them too. So if Bill said I thought the colored people wanted to go out of space and set up home with Elon, they want Earth, Mars, other terrestrial planets for their residence. Is this some Star Wars episode for Universal Takeover? I mean, that's a conspiracy theory I could kind of get with. You know, how close they are to it, how much power they really have to do with it. I do think it's a consideration, but I don't think it's realistic. It's not, going to Mars is not the same as Columbus getting in the ship and coming to Haiti. Mr. Spot said the governments are in tight with some of the scientists, like astrophysicists or cosmologists. This is where they learn this stuff through science to make people like Stephen Hawking. It not only makes sense, but can be proven. Hold on, let me back up. I think I missed the first thought. What you say? Oh, here it goes. I told a friend of mine the other day, stop sending me. What it says here. I told a friend of mine the other day, stop sending me conspiracy theory stuff. I don't care for conspiracies. If it can't be shown and proven or has overwhelming evidence, stop doing that. Yeah. I mean, pretty much, there's a certain amount of, I guess, just shell shockness amongst the people, after because I just named a couple of the conspiracies. You know what I'm saying? In terms of, like I said, Watergate, the Kennedy assassination, you had Martin Luther King assassination, you had, whatever happened with the Vietnam War, you had crack, Iran, Contra, there's multiple things that have happened. And I think it's kind of, people don't know what to think. Because so many things that, so many things that they've been told by the authorities, so many things that were supposed to make sense ended up not making sense, that, people don't know what to think. And sometimes, there's another thing, Mr. Spot. There's there's a thing with propagandists. There's a saying amongst propagandists that in order to, fool people, in order to pull the wool over people's eyes, right, you can't tell a little lie. You got to tell a big lie. Like the lie has to be huge. It can't be, a small thing. And saying that to say how that's related to what we're talking about right now is that, sometimes the simple explanation is not enough. Like there has to be evil science, aliens, reptilians, is if you don't have that, then people don't feel like it's an adequate explanation because, the stuff that they've been exposed to. You know what I'm saying? Another instance of that, or another example of that is I heard that that in some court cases, when people go to trial, that the district attorneys is having a little bit of trouble because of all of these CSI type shows. That people look at these TV shows where there's always a smoking gun. There's always, this DNA, this camera that's zeroed in on your iris, this fingerprint. There's always some concrete smoking gun there. So when they go into the court and they into the courtroom and, they basically presenting these, circumstantial evidence that they having trouble with the juries because the juries is looking for the smoking gun that they used to seeing on TV. Self-Out Bill said, well, because he was just talking about going to Mars and these other planets. Self-Out Bill said, if not, why Don Trumpolino set so much bread aside for outer space stuff? That's another good question. And I got to tell you, I don't have an answer for that one. That's another thing. Encyclopedia Brown covered this on his channel, Rob Bourne, on New Black Knowledge. Shout out to New Black Knowledge. But he covered that on his channel that preparing a report on unidentified flying objects, right, was included in the COVID stimulus bill. The COVID relief stimulus bill that was passed under Trump, the last one, it had something in there about the intelligence agencies and, NASA, et cetera, having to prepare a report on unidentified flying objects. Why would they include it in there? Like, is there a better place to, like I said, a lot of times for me, and, I look for ways to simplify things. So for me, it appears to be something to ramp back up the military industrial complex. If all of a sudden they prepare a report that says, well, we didn't want to tell you nothing, but China's been flying, spy missions, in your U.S. aerospace. But, we gotta, that's one we gotta keep our eyes open to see what happens with that. Mr. Spock said, Jesse the Body Ventura. That's Jesse the Mind, Mr. Spock. Jesse the Mind. But Jesse the Mind Ventura makes conspiracy books and makes conspiracy books. The difference with him is he has been a mayor and governor. His book, I Want to Get 63 Documents the Government Doesn't Want You to See, uses actual government documents to show things like 9/11, JFK assassination, healthcare, along these lines. It's not conspiracy at all. JFK assassination is not conspiracy. I used to think it was because he dealt with equality, but that's not the case. He signed an order to make United States notes instead of federal notes that go somewhere else. He was messing up the corporation's business affairs. Not a conspiracy at all, just common sense. I mean, well, look, you had there's lots of people, right, who JFK was stepping on their toes. You see, let's not forget that, JFK got killed in the deep South, where, he's giving speeches and, dealing with civil rights, which is something that, to this day, you still hear, they try and destroy our way of life. He was doing things against the CIA. You know what I'm saying? He was, trying to dismantle some of the covert antics that the CIA was dealing with, in terms of assassinations and regime change and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Let's also not forget that, he had a vice president who was from Texas, who became president when he got killed. Like there's a lot of factors. There was the betrayal of the mafia. So, any one of those stories, it makes common sense. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that it's not what you said. I'm just saying that there's lots of people that have beef with JFK who was capable of making something happen, I'm saying. So this is, what, leads to, this is what leads to, the uncertainty. And then you got all types of other people that's, you got Russian misinformation and propaganda out there, because they want to sow the seeds of confusion as well. So, like I said, it's, I'm used to these conspiracies, but, sometimes there is a simple explanation. Yeah, self-help bill. Right. Now, see, look, self-help bill makes a good point right here. Where it says, and don't forget, Africans couldn't get it, meaning COVID at one point, they were saying that, it don't affect Black people. And then it was like Black people could get it, but they can't die from it. And then now it's switched to the opposite conspiracy of is being done to take out Black people. See, that's what I'm saying. When it's all these different possibilities, I can't just zero in on one and say, okay, I could say beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is what happened. I could just say, look, yeah, that's funny right there. That's funny right there. There's something that no, I can't explain why you might have did that. Allah will manifest. What degrees you know is now Allah will manifest? You know, I have to every time you come in. Now I gotta check on you. Make sure you're doing the right thing. Mrs. Spock said, you know, in terms of JFK, that it appears that you know him being killed, uh, he said is a crime to cover a bigger crime. You know what I'm saying? I would just word it a little bit differently. I agree with you that uh, he it does appear that he was killed to avoid some greater trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like he was doing and saying things that uh, was going to lead to trouble. For certain powerful people. You know what I'm saying? Like when you were saying that he was going to make government notes instead of Federal Reserve notes, he had already done that. He these haven't been around in a long time, but like 793rd, I'm sure 793rd. You didn't know Jesse changed his name to Jesse the Mind? It's Jesse the Mind, man. What's wrong with you, 793rd? You know these things. But uh what was I know I was saying something? See, you made me lose my train of thought right there, 793rd. But oh yeah, I was talking about the silver certificates. You know what I'm saying? If you a little bit like I haven't seen a silver certificate since like the early 80s, maybe the mid 80s. You know what I'm saying? And Mr. Spot coinciding with what you were saying is that at some point, because remember the money was dealing with the gold standard. And so, things is being manipulated. So at some point, John Kennedy said, okay, count up all the silver that we got, right? And then issue money based on that amount of silver. And so back in the days, there were certain bills that you would get, right? That had silver certificate on it. And the science of it was that you could turn that money in for that value in silver. You could redeem it. So yeah, there's lots of things. You know what I'm saying? He was the Dulles brothers didn't like him, who they was like amongst the founders of the CIA. They was the people because the Dulles brothers was they was bankers. They might have been lawyers for the banks, but they was dealing with the banking industry. And so that's one of the reasons why the CIA was getting into so much financial stuff, you know what I'm saying, in terms of a lot of their covert operations in other countries was based on things that corporations wanted them to do, you know, uh, a lot of the different overthrows that they did in different places, that's what it was based on. So, John Kennedy he had Mega B fired. Kendall Rollins said all this extraterrestrial stuff is bull crap. Master Fard taught Elijah about life on the other planets, and he could discern that the most intelligent life on Earth, the most intelligent life is on Earth due to our level of experimentation. I mean, I'm not an expert on a lot of the, Elijah was around for 45 years. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he was much older than 45, but I'm talking about in the time that he was teaching from 1930 to 1975. You know what I'm saying? So, he had a lot of things that he built on that I'm not aware of. So Allah will manifest said, you haven't been studying the book. You've been learning a lesson though. Knowledge, the wisdom, or the check-in. So wait, you haven't been studying the book of life, but you've been learning the lessons? $793. He's been Jesse the Mind since he ran for governor of Minnesota, man. You gotta pay attention to these things, 793. Jesse the Mind. Mr. Spock said, Reagan said none of the federal income tax paid by the American people is ever deposited into the U.S. Treasury, but instead into the Federal Reserve Bank for its use. Shortly after that, he was shot. The guy who shot him was said to be insane, obsessed with some actress. BS. I never heard Jesse the Mind either. I don't know what's wrong with y'all, man. Where y'all been at? Yeah, I know. I'm not even. I'm out the loop on pop culture, but Jesse the Body. That's when I used to watch wrestling. Jesse the Body, Bruno San Martino, what's my man? Superstar Billy Graham. That's when I was really, really into it. Like the Hulkamania stuff. I love Hulkamania and all that, but I wasn't as big a fan of him in that era as I was of, the old days, George the Animal, Black Jack Mulligan, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know about, but it's Jesse the Mind. So Allah will manifest said he learned lessons like control of the cipher regardless to whom or what. So how do you do that? School us on how to control the cipher regardless to whom or what. But now here again, I'm gonna see like your little conspiracy that you got right there, Mr. Spot, about the tax money and where it goes. You know what I'm saying? What you say here? Allah will manifest. You control the cipher by giving respect first. Is that it? It's got to be something more than that. What are you talking about? Respect is knowledge. The cipher goes from knowledge to born, not Illuminati. Nah, man. 793rd. He's Jesse the Mind Ventura. Y'all got it. Hold on, man. See, because I think I gotta pull up a screen on y'all over here, man. I got gotta pull up the screen, man. Because y'all think I'm making this stuff up. One second, y'all here. You see this? Hold on. Let me share this page. Can y'all see this? See right here where it says Jesse the Mind Ventura video results. See, his Wikipedia, his Wikipedia page. Jesse Ventura, born James George Janos, July 15, 1951, is an American politician, political commentator, author, actor, and retired professional wrestler who served as mayor of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota from 1991 and 1995, and the 38th governor of Minnesota from 1999 to 2003. He was the first and only candidate of the Reform Party to win a major government office. Jesse Ventura was a member of the U.S. Navy underwater demolition team during the Vietnam War. After leaving the military, he embarked on a professional wrestling career from 1975 to 1986, taking the ring name Jesse the Body Ventura. After Jesse the Body Ventura, he had a long tenure with the World Wrestling Federation as a performer and color commentator, and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2004. In addition to wrestling, Ventura pursued an acting career, appearing in films such as Predator and The Running Man. So let's skip ahead a little bit here. So, right there where we can see that we're talking about the same the same Jesse Ventura. And it goes right here. He won the election in November 1998, narrowly and unexpectedly defeating the major party candidates, Republican St. Paul Mayor Norm Coleman and Democratic former labor attorney General Hubert H. Skip Humphrey III. During his victory speech, Ventura famously declared, "We shocked the world." After his election, bumper stickers and t-shirts bearing the slogan, "My governor can beat up your governor," appeared in Minnesota. The nickname Jesse the Mind from a last-minute Hillsman ad featuring Ventura posing as Rodin's thinker began to resurface sarcastically in reference to his often controversial remarks. Ventura's old stage name, Jesse the Body, sometimes adapted to Jesse the Governing Body, also continued to appear with some regularity. So you see, he's Jesse the Mind. Can't believe y'all didn't know that. Mr. Spock said is respect knowledge in the practical world. Yeah. You know, when you get into the meaning of the word through its etymology, you know what I'm saying? The meaning of the word through usage is also related to the meaning of it through etymology. But uh, you know, respect, right? Spec means to look. Spec is something that you know, a spectacle is something that you look at. Or, you know, specs, you know, you wear the glasses is specs. You know what I'm saying? So respect means to look again. You know what I'm saying? You know, when we use it in you know, common usage every day, respect is about how you how you treat a person or a thing. You know what I'm saying? But that's also, you know, uh like with your parents or something, you know, when they tell you, listen, you know, I'm not your friends. Watch how you talking to me. Yes, I mean, do the knowledge to who you speaking to. Be aware that you're not speaking to somebody that's on your level. Okay, the law will manifest. We got that part. Tell us how you control the cipher, regardless to whom or what. Yeah, listen, I didn't say Wikipedia was the greatest source. I'm just telling you that there is evidence out there that he's been Jesse the Mind for 25 years, 25 years, 7, 8. I can't believe y'all missed this, man. So y'all watch too much TV. Y'all watch wrestling. Kendall said taxes were not always an American thing. The UK started taxes first, created by people to tax the rich, but it backfired and wound up taxing the poor. And the US adopted the tax system after that. Okay, Kendall Rowland, Mr. Spot. See these you know, I'm about to blow y'all away here. So, you know, when y'all want to get into conspiracies, I'm telling you, you can't deal with it. You talk about conspiracies. I got conspiracies. You want to talk about conspiracies? I got conspiracies. Now, see, the Federal Reserve System, right, is the Federal Reserve System, right, is a system where the money is borrowed. Check. The Federal Reserve System is a group of private banks, and the money that they create is borrowed into existence by the federal government. Check. So you control the cipher by being you, Allah will manifest. All right, look, Allah will manifest. I don't know what you're talking about, but study your lessons. Instead of all the stuff you're talking about, just study your lessons. Cause I don't know what you're talking about, and I have some question as to whether you know what you're talking about either. But is everybody with me so far that the Federal Reserve is a system of private banks that print the money based on this money being borrowed into existence from the American government? Check. Where y'all at? Press one. Press one if y'all with me. Put one in the chat room if you with me. Mrs. Spock said, we had this discussion before about respect and knowledge. I recall y'all was all over me. As far as respect and practicality, my views have not changed. What are your views? Because I recall the conversation, but I don't recall your specific views. Okay, so everybody's with me that this money is borrowed into existence, right? Now, when you, Mrs. Spock said, we're borrowing nothing, it goes deeper even than just taxes. We have to study, like Noble Drew Ali said, to understand the clouds of deception. Just let my conspiracy develop, and then you can comment. But as of right now, we know that the United States is borrowing this money from the Federal Reserve. Check. We got enough people here saying check. All right. Now, when you go to borrow money, what's the first thing that the people that's loaning you the money, what's the first thing that they want to know? Anyone? Bueller? But yeah, Mrs. Spock, what's your views on respect and practicality? I can't recall specifically. And that question is still on the floor, right? When you go to borrow money from banks, remember the Federal Reserve is a system of banks. When you go to borrow money from the bank, what's the first thing they want to know? Self-high bill. You see, you there with me. I see you know about me in these conspiracies. They want to know how you going to pay them back. What is your source of income? And so the IRS is set up to be accounts receivable. Like you got a corporation, right? And they got a department, accounts receivable. See now, Mrs. Spock said credit. Now, this is what I'm saying. When you hear them say this all the time, when they want to do something and they don't have the money, what do they say? We are doing this on the basis of the full faith and credit of the American people. And so the Federal Reserve is set up. The Federal Reserve, the Internal Revenue Service, right, is set up for them to have the money to pay back all of these loans. See, because Kendall Rowland, what you were saying in terms of the tax system first being instituted in in England, right? You did say England, right? The Federal Reserve System was first set up in England. It was first set up because the King of England was engaging in a whole bunch of wars. And so if he just kept issuing money based on himself, that became a little bit untrustworthy. You understand what I'm saying? So he had to pretend to have a system, right, to where this money was based on something. And that's where the Rothschilds and the Bank of England came into play. Kendall Rowland said the only reason why the American dollar has value today is because people believe in it. There's nothing backing the American dollar. There is one other reason, and it's not a concrete thing, Kendall Rowland. I'm adding on to what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you here. But what is causing the value of the US dollar is that taxes, right? Coming back to the IRS, taxes is only payable in US dollars. Like, at different times when they, in the past, when they said they was taxing people, they'd come and take a certain amount of your crops or something. But taxes is only payable in US dollars. Like, you can't pay it in gold, you can't pay it in silver, stocks, bonds. You got to have US dollars. And so it becomes practical for people to only, it becomes practical for people to only do trading in US dollars. Because at the end of the day, you got to still convert it into that to pay your taxes. Self Bill said, so why they defaulting on their loans all the time? Mr. Chen wants his money. Well, that's the science of interest. You know what I'm saying? Well, it's the science of two things. See, the first thing is when you take it to the 1 in 36, and it says that yes, a trader made an into orientation that they will receive more gold for their labor, right? Love, what's the deal, right? There never was no more gold. Like, there wasn't no gold. The only gold was you. That's what they used to make the money. That's what the economy was based on. It was based on what the slaves could produce from the land. In capitalism, land was the first capital, slaves was the second capital. So whatever the slaves could produce on the land, that was the only gold. So there never was no gold. You know what I'm saying? But on top of that, to relate it to what we're speaking on right now, right, is that when you borrow money, right, and you got to pay back the interest was never created. See, you're supposed to be able to pay back the loan based on the concept that the economic activity is constantly bringing you a flow of money. And so through that flow of money or that income, you're able to pay the loans. But if you borrow $100 and you got to pay back $110, you got to get that $10 from someplace else. Like, somebody can loan you $100, right? You can go put it in your drawer and then you can say, yo, you know what? I don't need the $100 now. Like, something, whatever I was going to spend $100 on, I don't have to spend it. You give it right back to the person. But the person is going to say, yeah, but where's the $10 interest? You got to go get that from someplace else. So this is why it's always going to be defaults and it's always going to be people owing other people. He said, love will manifest. I want my penny. Mr. Spock said, look up the king in the Treaty of 1213. All right, we check that one out. Mr. Spock said, first off, I said I had two sets of lessons and two different people that had no affiliation whatsoever. Both lessons said knowledge is to know, listen, and observe. But I now know respect has always been there. I'm just saying this was already in my head. Second, I said respect is not knowledge, respect is wisdom. But we know wisdom is a manifestation of knowledge. So in essence, it's knowledge around righteous people. It can be knowledge all day. Well, you know, to look is a verb. You know what I'm saying? To think is a verb. You know what I'm saying? So, I understand what you're saying that, respect is a verb, in some ways, but I'm saying uh, that action is knowledge. You understand what I'm saying? Just by the same way, wisdom can be good judgment, which is not necessarily, or wisdom is good judgment. You know what I'm saying? So that's not necessarily you saying something or you doing something, because the good judgment could be for you to keep your mouth shut. So, we can't really define what's knowledge and what's wisdom strictly based on that. That is a general, we can use that, but, just because something is a verb, you know what I'm saying? Or just because something is an idea doesn't necessarily mean if it's knowledge and wisdom, or, you know, uh, even, culture, you know what I'm saying? Some of culture is the things that you're doing, the verbs, the music that you're listening to, the dances that you're doing, the food that you eat, but it's also your ideas and a way of looking at the world. You know what I'm saying? In this culture or that culture, people have this kind of outlook, just what they think of things. You know what I'm saying? So Kendall Rowland said the slave trade started Wall Street. But hold on, let's pull up the screen here. Let's see what is this. Treaty of 1213. Which country was this in? Let's see if it just comes up here. Okay, let's try to look up treaty between King John and the Pope. I see a lot of these sites that is covering this is conspiracy sites. But let's go here. This is truthcontrol.com. And see, as soon as you look at this, you can tell this is a little conspiracy-ish. But you should see this coming up on the screen in a minute. It says right here, the Treaty of 1213, the beginning of the lie. Once upon a time, before the year 1066, the people of England held a lordly title to their land. Not even the king could take the land for not paying a tithe. William the Conqueror came in 1066 and stole the king's title and took the land of the people. From William I, 1066 to King John, 1199, England was in dire straits. It was bankrupt. The king invoked the law of mortmain, the dead man's hand, so people couldn't pass their land on to the church or anyone else without the king's permission. Without mortmain, the king would lose the land he controlled. The Vatican didn't like that because the king owed a lot of pounds to the Vatican. Why? Number one, King John refused to accept the Vatican's representative, Stephen Langton, whom Pope Innocent III installed to rule England's religious, or in fact, two. In 1208, England was placed under papal interdict. Interdict means prohibition. King John was excommunicated, and in trying to regain his stature, he groveled before the Pope and returned the title to his kingdoms of England and Ireland to the Pope as vassals and swore submission and loyalty to him. King John accepted Langton as Archbishop of Canterbury and offered the Pope a vassal's bond of fealty and homage. 2 months later, in July of 1213, King John was absolved of excommunication at Winchester by the returned Archbishop of Canterbury, Langton. On October 3rd, 1213, by treaty, King John ratified his surrender of his kingdoms to the Pope as Vicar of Christ, who claimed ownership of everything and everyone on earth as tradition. Question 1, where in the Bible did Jesus give any man this kind of power over all men and land? He didn't. He did not create a religion, nor did he create the office of Pope. Question 2, can you have a third party break a contract between you and another person under duress? I guess it says, don't those of you who are forced into a contract reserve all your rights under UCC 1-207 and claim UCC 1-103. The contract, the Treaty of 1213, was between two parties. Now, the barons of England would not put up with being slaves anymore, so they took to the sword and made King John sign the Magna Carta. So doesn't this act of the barons violate the principle of natural law when they created the Magna Charta as having no force and effect upon a contract between two parties? Well, Pope Innocent III, the other contracting party, thought so, for he declared the Magna Charta to be unlawful and unjust, as it is base and shameful, whereby the apostolic see is brought into contempt, the royal prerogative diminished, and the English outraged, and the whole enterprise of the crusade greatly imperiled. Quoted from G.R.C. Davis, Magna Charta, trustee of the British Museum, London, 1965. Okay, so this is getting a little bit religious here. This site is already, this is a kind of conspiracy site here. All of these sites so far that I see this on appears to be the same appears to be hold on, let's try to look it up on Google. And Yahoo is we get the same sites. I mean, I can't really call it Melissa Davis. I can't really call it, what's the significance of that? I would have to look into it a little bit more and, see it from some sites and sources that's, a little more concrete so I can, I can kind of discern what's what about that. But what was the significance that you seen in it in your studies? Oh, Mr. Spock said that's what I said too. These is conspiracies and Morris Brothers, but it's a difference between being a conspiracy theorist and recognizing what is respected and how things work in the now. Yeah, see these, treaties, these different things that they be discussing. You got treaties, just like when you deal with contract law, right? You can have a contract, but there's different ways, like bankruptcy, you know what I'm saying? Companies going out of business, you can have a contract, but if the entity that you have the contract with is defunct, then what happens to the contract? Like right now, if you show up with a plane ticket to Eastern Airlines, some of the older brothers will recall Eastern Airlines. That used to be like the number one airlines. It used to be at one time it was Eastern, Delta, and American Airlines. And Eastern went bankrupt. So what happens if you show up with a ticket from Eastern Airlines? Krishan Bell, Krishan Bell said these people just keep breaking their own agreements. General Muk China is on his way to collect. His backup is Russia and the rest of SCO. What's SCO? It has already started. Get self-sufficient ASAP. So are you speaking on the like the amount of money that China is owed through the purchase of US bonds? 2022 will be the year since 1914 plus 1941. It will be going down in 2022, mark my words for the historians. So, okay, what exactly is going down here so we can get ready? So, what's going down so we can be prepared. But you said 1914 plus 1941. I mean, I can see the significance of these 2 years. 1914 being the year that World War I started, even though America didn't get involved until 1917. 1941 is kind of the opposite, where this is World War II, but World War II actually started in 19. either 1937 or 1939. I got to brush up on that. But it's one of those things where World War II, there was a few things that happened before it got to all out war. Like there was some, like they invaded Germany was saying that they had certain lands that was taken from them in World War One, and they had invaded a couple of lands before they actually went to war. Remember, it was a prime minister in England by the name of Chamberlain before before Winston Churchill took over. It was a guy named Chamberlain, and Germany was being aggressive already against certain countries, and the dude Chamberlain went and signed some kind of agreement, some type of peace agreement or something with Hitler. So he went down in history as being, you know, a fool, like you fell for Hitler's tricks, and then he continued to be aggressive. So this is one of the things now when you hear them saying that you know, you can't appease these people and you can't make no agreements with these people. It's you know, he's the 20th century example of you know, being a fool and being too complacent in the face of aggression. So in terms of you putting those dates there, like I was saying, World War II started in either 1937 or 1939, but 1941 was the year that America got involved. So Mr. Spock said, the site you read is not getting to what I was really talking about. Got me cracking the books open now. I mean, that's what we do here. You know, we crack the books open. You know, maybe we should get Encyclopedia Brown on it. Because you know he got Encyclopedia Brown got primaries. So next time I speak to Encyclopedia Brown, next time we get Encyclopedia Brown, we're gonna ask him what he knows about the Treaty of 1213. Or we could ask I haven't been in contact with him though. Now, actually, I was in contact with him. Something happened, I can't recall. But Lord, we get in touch with Lord Abbott. We get in touch with Lord Abbott, maybe he could drop the science on the Treaty of 1213. Mr. Spock said, you see where I'm coming from with the 85% though, younger people who are savage in terms of what? See, you know, sometimes when I start talking too much, and then you know, you got to bring me back. You got to bring me back to the point that we were saying, or you know, people make comments and I don't even recall where it's coming from. Like, you know, people do that. You know, you'll find that over time. Like people that come up to you, like people come up to me, they say, "Yo, remember that day we was building?" Nah, not particularly. I build every day. Like I don't remember no days where I see you we wasn't building. You know what I'm saying? Or like a person say, "Yeah, you know the brother Born." Yeah, I know a lot of brothers named Born. Born who from where? You know, the guy from the desert. Hey, now you gotta give me some other details. Oh man. So Krishan Bell came back to say SCO is Shanghai Corporation Organization. So who's this Shanghai Corporation Organization? Is this this is an alliance of companies? Oh, pardon me. I don't know what I'm reading. I just had a little dyslexia, y'all. Let me come back. SCO is Shanghai Cooperation Organization, right? So now, who are the people? Because Shanghai is a city, but is there? I'm not familiar with this organization. So, so you're saying, yeah, in terms of defaulting on the bond loans, you know, now we're going into, I mean, let me finish what you're saying here. 1914, born 6, 1941, born 6, and 2022, born 6. All dates are correct and verified. The lead up is happening the same way. Check it. I mean, it's possible, and there's some concrete things you're saying there in terms of America right now. They don't have the money that they're giving out, the stimulus checks. This is coming straight from the Federal Reserve too. So it's very quite possible that other governments is going to say, yo, dude, you giving out money like water right now. Can you pour some in my cup? This is what happened when they broke the gold standard. It was because America was spending so much money on the welfare state that had to do with the Great Society. When Lyndon Johnson instituted the Great Society and they had the Vietnam War escalating, so this is when you had the guns and butter federal government kind of, the right word is not strategy. Guns and butter this is what the federal government was spending money on. You know what I'm saying? And so at that time, other countries could, if they had US dollars, they could redeem those dollars for gold. But the guy from France, de Gaulle was his name. President de Gaulle from France, he started realizing that, yo, dude, the way you making all this money in order to give money out in this welfare stuff and in order to have this war, there's no way that you got all the gold to back this money up. So you know what? Let me get my gold now before this thing ends up imploding. And so Nixon did what they call close the gold window. So now you could no longer redeem your money for gold, right? So now the US dollars start stacking up all around the world. And so now, what do you do with the dollars, right? You gotta pretty much invest them back into America. Well, there's two things you can do for them. You could buy oil, because you can only buy oil in dollars. Like if country A wants to buy oil from country B, country A has to convert their money into dollars, make the purchase, and then country B has to, they used to be able to cash that money in and redeem it for gold, but now they just collect it. So this is why you see the Arab people investing. Like if you remember, each time it was an economic crash, one of the ways that they got infusion of money was through, the Arab people who got a whole bunch of dollars because they sell the oil in dollars, right? Invested money back into the American economy. So China has a whole bunch of dollars, of course, because they make all those goods that they manufacture that they sell to America, right? They have these American dollars. So what do you do with it? You got to invest it back into America. And so this is why America owes China a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, I think it's over $1 trillion. You know what I'm saying? The last time I checked on it. Krishan Bell probably got some more information on that than me. But I'm aware of these things that you're saying. And is next year is as good as time as any year. That could be the great reckoning for that. All right, so you're thinking about the 85%. All right, but I still don't, I'm talking to Heat Kareem now. I still don't, you still got to catch me up a little bit of what they got to do with the 85% and the young people that's acting savage. Now, as I said, that's how I was when I told a brother who said he's coming to Mecca to do repairs, that I told Divine Peace. He said, which Divine? Yeah. Yeah, Divine is one of those names. That's what I'm saying. It's like born Divine. It's some names, like at least I like to think that it's really only one Darkim that, who else could you be talking about? I it could be other brothers, but Krishan Bell said my statements is in regards to these treaties, whether the real documented facts or imagined conspiracies, no distractions. She will pay very soon. SCO includes China, Russia, etc. Don't let the name of the city serve as a distraction. It's bigger. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it's a cooperation organization, that would mean that it's more than one. So you said it's a military cooperation. Please look up in your spare time. Is verifiable using verifiable sites, no conspiracy sites. USA is just using bully tactics to keep this going. Muck just produced the world's largest navy. Russia now has the most sophisticated army. It's getting hot. It's about to drop. So China, you're saying China has the world's largest navy? Yeah, I gotta look that one up. I think we gotta bring up the screen on this one. I do know that China recently made their came up with their first aircraft carrier. So this says so we got two different things here. But let's go with the New York Post right here. Let's go with the New York Post. So this should be coming up. Y'all should be able to see the screen in just a moment. It says here, the Pentagon, this story is from Steve Nelson on the New York Post from September 2nd, 2020. Pentagon says China has largest navy in the world after buildup. The Defense Department says in a new report to Congress that China now has the world's largest navy, at least in the number of battle-ready ships. China has the largest navy in the world with an overall battle force of approximately 350 ships and submarines, including over 130 major surface combatants. In comparison, the U.S. Navy's battle force is approximately 293 ships as of early 2020. The comparison isn't necessarily qualitative. For example, the U.S. Navy has 11 massive nuclear-powered aircraft carriers and bases across the world. China has just 2 non-nuclear aircraft carriers and lacks a significant overseas presence. The report, drafted by Defense Secretary Mark Esper's office, notes that the Chinese military remains engaged in a robust shipbuilding and modernization program that includes submarines, surface combatants, amphibious warfare ships, aircraft carriers, and auxiliary ships, as well as developing and fielding advanced weapons, sensors, and command and control capabilities. Yeah, I did know that they recently came with the first aircraft carrier because um, uh, America was saying that that China actually stole a lot of their design, a lot of the technology or whatever from America because, America has so much stuff manufactured in China, including some parts for the defense industry. A lot of the parts is made in China and then it's assembled here in America. So they were saying that China stole some of their some of the technology in order to build that ship. So this right here, we have, we got the type of scientists here on the Random Jewels Network who don't necessarily like Wikipedia. Hold on, I'm looking for a site that everybody will probably. I see a few what's the names. Let's go, I guess, with CFR.org. This is Council on Foreign Relations. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a Eurasian, this apparently is a Eurasian, meaning some of the members of the organization is from Europe and some of the members of the organization is from Asia. So it says here, Eurasia's Shanghai Cooperation Organization has expanded its agenda to include wide-reaching security and economic initiatives, but it remains to be seen if the bloc's members can develop and implement unified policy. So this article is from October 14th. It was last updated October 14th, 2015, from a Mrs. Eleanor Albert. And it says here, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is an intergovernmental organization composed of China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan, founded in Shanghai in 2001. Okay, so now we see where the name Shanghai comes from. Originally formed as a confidence building forum to demilitarize borders, the organization's goals and agenda have since broadened to include increased military and counterterrorism cooperation and intelligence sharing. The SCO has also intensified its focus on regional economic skill and on regional economic initiatives like the recently announced integration of the China-led Silk Road Economic Belt and the Russia-led Eurasian Economic Union. While some experts say the organization has emerged as an anti-US bulwark in Central Asia, others believe frictions among its members effectively preclude a strong, unified SCO. So this says that this organization was originally organized as the Shanghai Five in 1996. The organization added Uzbekistan in 2001 and renamed itself the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The six member states occupy territory that accounts for 3/5 of the Eurasian continent and have a population of 1.5 billion, a quarter of the world's population. In addition to the six member states, the SCO has two new acceding members, India and Pakistan, four observer nations, and six dialogue partners. I think we get the gist of what you're saying right there, Krishan Bell. Krishan Bell said China and Russian Navy has been bullying USA as of recent. I don't know about bullying, but I do know it was a situation that occurred in the Gulf of Aden, I'm pretty sure, where there was something going on, like it was a little, how it's like a little conflict. You would hear that there's a diplomatic situation going on. And in the midst of that diplomatic situation, that's going on, it's a little conflict. You would hear that, well, America sent some aircraft carriers into a certain part of the, into certain waters that's close to wherever the area that the conflict is going on. And so at some point, they in the Gulf of Aden, I think they had something going on with Iran. So they send these ships over there to the water. So then China sends some ships over there. And so the Americans get on the horn, they hit the other ship. They say, look, we over here doing some maneuvers or whatever. You know what I'm saying? We everything's smooth. We doing what we doing. You can slide off. And the Chinese people was like, nah, we observing this to make sure everything go right. And America was like, nah, we got it, everything gonna go right. It was like, yeah, but we just gonna observe. I don't know exactly about bullying, but I know there's been some issues. I know there's some other issues in the South China Sea where China built some artificial islands to make claims to ownership of part of the South China Seas that's supposed to really be some international thing. I know Japan felt threatened by that. So, I've seen some of the stuff in the news, how, I might not have been paying attention to some things, I didn't necessarily see it as bullying just yet. Mr. Spock said, I meant respect can be knowledge. Around the 5% are righteous. In general, the 85%, however, saying thank you, opening doors, taking off hats is not a way of life. it's something learned one from people. It's something learned from people with knowledge. Um, then carried out. I mean, but it's still it's an idea though. You know what I mean? Even when you look at it like that, it's still an idea. You know what I mean? You know, how you see a certain person is based on the idea. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you can see an old person and they could be an old fool. Even though there's always the point that, you know, well, how did the person get to be old if they a fool? You know what I'm saying? It takes some kind of sense just to get old. You know what I'm saying? Uh, but you know, you're not gonna have the same respect for an old fool. It's still an idea. Christian Bell said, "What one lacks, the partner has. It's a cooperation for that reason. Plus, Russia just created the biggest hack of USA in history. Babylon is falling as we speak, even faster now." Um, well, I don't think America is too worried about Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. You know, so, China and Russia, they are pretty formidable. Uh, you know, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Christian Bell said even Elijah was saying USA allies would trick her, especially the Asian ones. That's exactly what China did by taking her trade secrets. Russia did the same by straight up jacking or hacking. Well, which hack are you talking about? Are you talking about the uh the hack that they did through it was like a security it was like a security app that goes on your computer that a lot of different companies, corporate entities as well as government entities use this security application on their computer to protect their computers. There was some individuals who hacked that app. And so all of these different corporate entities and government entities that use that computer to that use that program or that app in order to protect their computers was actually infecting their computers when they was using this program, the security program software. Uh, are you talking about that, or are you talking about the election stuff? So Krishan Bell said it's NATO versus the SCO. NATO is now broken thanks to Mr. Trump. The Russian implant, Manchurian Candidate, is a good movie to check out for entertainment. So you think Trump was a Russian plant? Mr. Spock said the Treaty of 1213, what's this, speed court? You can go here. Additionally, can watch Ray Hagan video on the Federal Reserve, who runs America. I don't know necessarily that I want to listen to Ray Hagan. He said here, Krishan Bell said, "Don't worry about the stands. China and Russia is it. The hack was all of USA systems to include military, Homeland Security, Treasury Department, private corps." I mean, which one are you talking about? I mean, I would say right now, uh, on face value, we just talking about the tail of the tape. You know, that's why they play the games. You know what I'm saying? You know, but just if we going on paper right now, I think I'd probably pick NATO over the SCO. Not saying that either way they want to go to war. Christian Bell said also Germany and France is starting to tip the scale in favor of Russia. No conspiracies, time is speeding up. Need to organize ASAP for those that plan on riding it out in the USA. Please hear and listen. So, Christian Bell, what type of sites, you know, or where do you get your news from? Like, where could we see some of these stories? Hold on, let me do this here too. In case anybody wants to come on to the live. Krishan Bell, maybe it'll be easier for you to explain to us what you mean. Krishan Bell said all of her main infrastructure corporations, some of the biggest names, every foreign policy Trump made directly benefited Russia. I mean, could you give me like a couple of examples? Everybody that's just joining the room, uh, we started this off when you see the title here where it says Bloomberg News reports pandemic could last 7 years. This was based on a news story that I saw in the New York Post today. And they were reporting a story that had appeared in the Bloomberg News that said that they collected uh, the world's largest database of who has taken the inoculations already. And when they crunched the numbers of who's taken the inoculations, and based upon uh, the 75 to 85% of people that they feel that they saying need to take the inoculations in order to reach herd immunity, they were saying that it could take up to 7 years. But the thing that was very interesting to me about the story is that you've collected this large database. And so on the one hand, the first thing how did you get this database? Like it's not, this information is this not your private medical information that's not necessarily supposed to be circulated all around the world. One thing. And the second thing, is that not a hypothesis to show you that this is an experiment? Because you've given us a hypothesis now of how you think this is going to play out. So I thought that was very interesting. So Krishan Bell said this is Fox News, CNN News, MSNBC, and other smaller outlets. I also check international sites, Al Jazeera, Russia, China, Japan, Cuba, Germany, Nigeria, Sudan, etc., etc. I mean, I know about Russia, they got that channel RT. I know about Al Jazeera, of course. The other, China, Japan, Cuba, Germany, Nigeria, Sudan, I'm not familiar with any news organizations from there. Krishan Bell says piling troops out of Syria and Afghanistan benefited Russia, or pulling troops out of Syria and Afghanistan benefited Russia. Pulling U.S. NATO troops from Germany benefited Russia. Also, others, all verifiable. Benefited them how? Benefited Russia how? All right, there's the link. That's the link for anybody who wants to join the live. Well, not anybody, but if you're sane and you got something to say, you can click the link. Because sometimes sometimes the people that click that link, man, we end up going down a rabbit hole. Krishan Bell said USA is saying 7 years. The eastern parts of the world is doing a good job with the pandemic, according to reports. Have to get news from multiple sources to get a well-rounded view, since all have propaganda. Indeed on that. And for that reason, Krishan Bell, we actually was talking about this earlier. I don't really trust, because countries like Russia and China have uh, a lot more control over what's reported in the news. You know what I'm saying? Like, their news agencies, you know, in China is most of it. You know what I'm saying? In Russia, I don't know what's the percentage, but they actually have state controlled news agencies. So I really don't trust China. You know what I'm saying? China's been lying the entire time in terms of the pandemic. And they just the type of people, China, they got, and I'm not going to say America loves us, but China don't really care about their people. You know, they got what, 1.2 billion people or something in China. You know, they don't really, like if a million people die in China, they not that concerned with it. Like a lot of the reason why manufacturing was moved to China is because, China, they'll pollute the water, pollute the air. They don't really care. But either way, this is interesting. You know, um, I did know that there's different alliances. You know what I'm saying? What was the name of that treaty they had a couple of years ago? Krishan Bell. There's a Pacific, uh, some kind of Pacific economic agreement that is for all the countries that border the Pacific Ocean. And of course, America used to dominate, whatever trade and whatever was going on. And in the last pact that they had, China was really asserting themselves, you know, uh, to the point where they was making themselves uh, the dominant force, uh, in they're not necessarily a world superpower, but they asserted themselves as the regional superpower. But this was when they made that pact. This was when Obama. This was when Obama was still in office. But this is all interesting. Um, I don't agree with the Russian plant stuff. Uh, but in terms of the rise of China, on the political, economic world stage, military as well, um, and what kind of implications that can have for America, I agree with you on that. That's very keen too, because uh, it's been so much stuff going on in America, you know what I'm saying? From George Floyd to the pandemic, Amar Arbery, Breonna Taylor, et cetera, et cetera, all of these different issues that we've had, you know, the Battle of Capitol Hill, et cetera, that, now that you mention all this stuff, I do have to say, I haven't been paying attention to the international news in the last year as much as I have in the past. Because, at this point, China is China. You know what I'm saying? And just historically, uh, the superpowers change over pretty much every century. You know what I'm saying? Like the 16th century was uh the Spanish century. You know what I'm saying? The Spanish was pretty much the preeminent world power in the 16th century. In the 17th century, you had France, you know what I'm saying? And then the 18th century, you know, towards the end, you start getting the rise of England. You know what I'm saying? From the 16th going into the 17th, you got Spain. 17th going into the 18th, you got France. 18th going into the 19th, you have England. And then when you get to the 20th century, this is the American century. You know what I'm saying? So, China coming in the 21st, going into the 22nd century, would, this world history 101. Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock said the site he looking at must be a conspiracy site because YouTube is not letting him type the website in. It's not approved. You see what I'm saying, Mr. Spock? This is why this is why you don't want them making the rules. Because just like they could do something that you like, they could do something that you don't like. So you always got to be aware of that. But we get into the wee hours of the morning. Tomorrow I got a couple of things I got to do. You know what I'm saying? I will be on tomorrow. Everybody do the each one teach one. Hit the like button. Share this one out on your pages because we said a couple of things. Krishan Bell said a couple of things. Mr. Spock said a couple of things. And we covered this story that is this is useful. This is useful information, useful news, things that people should be aware of that's going on around them. You know what I'm saying? Because when we dealing with the world, we dealing with the different cycles that's going on, it's see I power her or her power I see. You understand what I mean? And you can't power her, you can't be the power within the cipher if you don't even have knowledge of the cipher. So share this out on your other pages. Hit the like button, comment in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, if you got any other topics that you want to be covered, news stories, whatever, put those in the comment section. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.